We are Saber Sports.
Welcome back to Saber Sports. I'm your host, Simone Steffen, joined by the incredible team at the desk, Shane Fordham, Jeremiah Williams, and Chris Zellis. With all the buzz surrounding the offseason and all the new moves made by teams in the NFL, with Dak Prescott being in the last year of his contract and Jalen Hurts coming back from last season's collapse, Shane, who is under the most pressure, Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts?
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I was certain it was Dak until I came to the realization that pressure comes with expectations.
Right.
And I think that you can't be under pressure unless greatness is expected of you. And I think the expectations should be bigger on Jalen Hurts this year than Dak because of the situation that he's in. You know, we know who Dak is. Dak has shown time and time again that he is not capable of winning, you know, when it matters most. He's not capable of, he hasn't been able to make it over the hump regardless of the tools that he has been surrounded with on both offense and defense.
Right.
Jalen Hurts. We look at Jalen Hurts now. You know, we know he's coming off of one of the biggest collapses in NFL history. Since then, the Eagles have done their part. They've extended Devontae Smith. They made it clear that A.J. Brown is not available for any trade discussions. They went and picked up Saquon Barkley, spending massive amount of money for a massive deal where a running back is concerned. They went and picked up a pass rusher in Bryce Huff to reinforce that D-line. We went and got a top 5 linebacker in Devin White. We brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a big part in the Super Bowl run that they made 2 seasons ago. So I feel like a lot is expected of Jalen Hurts right now, and I feel like, honestly, we should expect no less than at least a conference game from Jalen Hurts.
Right.
At the very most, a Super Bowl trip. You know, I feel like the expectations are greater on Jalen Hurts this year, which means he's under more pressure.
And you know, Shane, having this conversation I think is really good because, you know, I kind of agree with you, but then I also don't because, again, understanding what position Jalen Hurts is in. He's 25 years old. Dak is 30. Yeah. Jalen Hurts has already been to a Super Bowl. He's already won the division once.
Yep.
Dak has done neither of those.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts has proven and shown time and time again that he makes this Eagles teams go. I think that the Eagles have filled some necessary problems on the defensive side, which is why I think that blunder happened along with the coaching situation with the offense and the coordinator and things like that. But I think at this point in Dak's career, I mean, he's 30 years old, 2-5 in the playoff. Like I said, hasn't won a division, hasn't even been to the Super Bowl, hasn't even been close to the Super Bowl. How much longer can we continue to say, okay, Dak is a great or elite level quarterback in the regular season that can't win? I think the pressure on him, and going into his contract year, you know, what are the Cowboys going to do with him? This is America's team, and, you know, America's team wants to win. They haven't won since the 90s. So I definitely think Dak is under a lot of pressure within if he wants to say he's a franchise guy and be the guy in Dallas, he has to go and win big this year.
Right. So I'm not mad about what you said. I'm going to go with Chris. You know, it's Dak Prescott, y'all. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. You know, he's the type of quarterback, and I've said this multiple times, like he's the type of quarterback to show up in the regular season. Like he'll give you a solid 11 games of like being a tier 1 quarterback. We'll talk about him like tier 1, or is he top 5? But when the season comes to an end, it's like he surely but slowly decreases his play and, you know, finds a way to turn the ball or find a way to not show up. And I think it's time to stop giving him excuses. I feel like I was thinking about this earlier this week, like the last 3 to 4 years, we've been having the same conversation about Dak Prescott about, you know, when is he going to get it done? Should the Cowboys let him go? Should this be his last season? Well, it's time. It's time to get rid of him after this year if he does not do his thing, because we keep giving him the shadow of a doubt that he's a great quarterback, but in reality, he's not. He's not a great quarterback. I know I say this a lot, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. When it comes to the playoffs, he's a tier 3 quarterback. He starts off tier 2, tier 1 in the beginning of the season, and then the playoffs he goes to tier 3. You know, in 2023, right, he had his best season. You know, 36 touchdowns. He still didn't get it done. So what do you expect him to do next year if he's been consistently, you know, bad in the big moments?
And I think one thing to look at is like how Shane alluded to with Jalen and his situation of being on a loaded roster.
Right.
Let's not forget this Cowboys team is pretty loaded too, especially on the offensive side of the ball. When you talk about having a top offensive line, you're talking about have top offensive receiver threats and CeeDee Lamb. He's had Ezekiel Elliott. He had Tony Pollard. He's had those guys, Michael Gallup, that can get it done. So it's not like Dak Prescott has not been put in a situation where he should be winning at a high level when it counts. I think he definitely has, and I think that's why he's under a lot of pressure, because time and time again, the Cowboys have great rosters, but they can't get it done.
But if we're looking at exactly what you said with what Dak Prescott has, he has less than what he had last year. So if he couldn't get it done last year, I don't know what makes people think he'll be able to do it this year. You know, where we're looking at the pressure, Jalen Hurts has been more equipped, better equipped to make another Super Bowl run like they did in 2020 in 2022.
Because of his roster, correct?
Right, but Dak Prescott, they made no significant signings or trades to surround Dak Prescott with more weapons. They have CeeDee Lamb. They don't have a real number 2 receiver anymore. And this is before the draft.
Right.
They don't have a number 2 receiver anymore. They didn't make any adjustments on defense. You know, so there's no adjustments that they made to better equip Dak Prescott to win. So what my argument is how can you expect more of Dak Prescott this year when you were arguably at your best last season? Like you said, Dak Prescott was at his best last season. The defense was at their best last season, winning them games, putting up historic numbers.
Right.
The defense was scoring points.
So Dak is the problem, correct?
Dak is the problem, which is why I don't believe there is more pressure on him than Jalen Hurts, because once you show to be great, once you do something great, the bar is raised.
Okay.
So the bar of expectation is raised. So now the next season that comes around, your fan base is going to expect you to either match it or pass it.
Well,
you know, and for example, Caitlin Clark, for example, if we look at her compared to everyone else in that draft class, she has the most pressure on her compared to everyone else in that draft class because of what she has shown to done.
Okay.
What she has done this year, breaking the record she has, winning the games that she has on the team that she has. So when you look at Jalen Hurts compared to Dak Prescott, the better quarterback in this situation has more pressure because of what he has
I have a
done.
question.
And
I have a question.
Be
I have a
capable
question.
of.
I have a question. And you're a quarterback, so you know you could answer this obviously. And, you know you play football as well, and I did too. But anyways, is Jalen how much better is Jalen Hurts than Dak Prescott? Like,
So, and this is exactly what I mean, because 2 years ago we were saying Jalen Hurts was at least top 5. With the MVP season he had, we were saying he was at least top 5.
Yeah.
well, he wasn't in my top 5. Remember that.
But overall, he was. He was an MVP candidate. He barely lost that MVP. I mean, it took Patrick Mahomes having just
A breakout season.
miraculous season,
Yeah.
Super Bowl winning season to beat him out.
Right.
But if we look at where he was in 2022 to now where he's looked at in 2023, not being seen. Really, people are seeing him as arguably a top 10 quarterback because of the decline he had this year. Now, no matter for what reason you want to say he had the decline, you know, I know I've said it's because of the coaching, the way the offense was ran, the overall state the team was in, you know, coming off of a high and then, you know, just collapsing. You know, it takes a full team to collapse. It wasn't just on Jalen. But for no matter what reason you want to say he declined, he did decline. So I feel like that's where the pressure comes in now because Jalen Hurts is 100% healthy this year. You know, he's not dealing with the nagging knee injury that he had last year. He doesn't have a broken finger. He's not going to have a broken finger this year. So I feel like that's where the pressure comes in because we've seen Jalen Hurts at his high. Now that he is going to be in more of a position closer to what he was in 2022, being healthy, having the weapons on both sides of the ball, I feel like that's where the pressure comes in because now we're expecting to have that same sort of miraculous season leading to a Super Bowl. I don't think anyone expects that of Dak this year.
I mean, Dak did throw for 400 yards and multiple touchdowns in that divisional loss to the Packers. So, I mean.
And they still didn't get it
Where
did
that get them?
They still didn't get it anyway. That's the problem, though. Like, he performs in the regular season. You know, he did well in that playoff game, but he got nowhere. And that's where I think the pressure lies on him. Like, you have to find a way to get over the hump. Like, okay, I know as much as I talk about Jalen Hurts and, you know, not being the best in my eyes, right? But at least Jalen Hurts got them to a Super Bowl. Dak has yet to do that. He has yet to, you know, perform to his highest in those big moments. And that's the problem that I have. Like, how are you going to get it done if you are so-called a great quarterback?
He got them to a Super Bowl, but he lost.
He did,
Now-
but he got
now-
there.
With
He
one
got
of the
there.
best performances in Super Bowl history.
And I'm giving
got
him
there.
exactly, and I give him credit for getting there, having one of the greatest quarterback performances of all time, especially in Super Bowl history. But there are those who think he choked. The reason why they didn't win that Super Bowl is because of Jalen Hurts.
And-
People say that if they had a better quarterback, maybe if they had, for some reason, I've heard Justin Herbert's name thrown around. I've heard Justin Fields' name thrown around.
Whoa.
I've heard Trevor Lawrence's
Justin
name thrown around,
Fields?
saying that if they had one of these other quarterbacks, maybe the Eagles would have won that
That's
game.
cap.
Which is not true, but that's where the pressure comes in because now Jalen can prove that it's not true. Being 100% healthy, having the weapons that he does.
It's really going to
But
be
again, he
interesting
wasn't the
this
problem
year to
last
see
year,
that.
though.
Right. No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
He had, I mean, a down year is not 4,500 total yards and 38 touchdowns. Like, I don't think that's a down year, and I think people are crazy by just throwing him out of. You can't have him in the top 5 conversation and then take him out. Like, he's consistently shown that with Jalen Hurts, this Eagle team is a winning team. Without him, I don't think they have a chance to win anything, regardless of the talent. His leadership, his ability to affect the game through the air and on the ground is what makes this Eagle team so effective and so dangerous. So it's hard for me to feel like, you know, if the Eagles have another quarterback, you know, they'll be a better team than what they are with Jalen Hurts. I totally disagree with that.
When we come back, we're going to be talking NBA. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the show. TJ, who is most likely to get upset and lose in the first round? Giannis, Joel, or Tatum?
Thank you for that question. I think the person to get most upset is definitely Embiid in the 76ers. But I think the biggest letdown to get upset is Jason Tatum in the Celtics, though.
Okay.
And let me explain why. Chris, you said something earlier that really struck my interest. You said pressure is created from expectation. Embiid has done
That was
nothing.
me, actually.
Oh, let me you said that. You said, okay, I'm gonna give you credit. That was good. But listen, you said pressure is created from expectation. What can we expect from Joel Embiid? And like he's playing through injury, and he got hurt again in game one. So like what can we expect from him? He's done nothing. He hasn't made it to the conference finals. He's done nothing to show he can get to that next level and really take his team there. So them already being a lower seed, it's like if they get upset, it's like it won't be upsetting to me. I know you're a Philly guy though, so I know you'll be a little sick. But to me, it's not surprising.
Right. Wow, I like that. That was an amazing point.
I like that.
So yeah, obviously for me it's Embiid. You know, I think he's definitely going to get upset in the first round. Number one, he's just coming off an injury, and we all know like when you coming back from injury, you have to get your legs under you again. I don't think Joel Embiid is actually in playoff shape right now. I think he's still trying to get his legs under him. He's trying to catch his breath, and I still don't think the Sixers have enough to beat the Knicks right now because of how Joel Embiid is going to play and who's around, you know, the Sixers. Like you have Maxey, you have Embiid, but who can be those two other guys to, you know, get you over the hump? So I think, honestly, this season's done for them, and I expect them to come back next year. So we'll see.
You know, and I'm going to agree, definitely saying Embiid. You know, they dropped the first game to the Knicks. Embiid's already hurt that knee. Maxey had 33 points, and Embiid had 29. Maxey played 44 minutes, and it was enough to beat the Knicks. Brunson only had 22 points. Josh Hart had a great game with 22 points, 13 rebounds. You know, I think this Sixers team already was limited with Maxey and Embiid being their only firepower offensively. And now with Embiid being hurt, his health being in question for the rest of this series, I don't know that the Sixers will have enough to push past this tough Knicks team, because I feel like this Knicks team is a gritty team. They're going to play hard. They're going to play you every single minute of that game hard and not let up. And I think that's going to be an issue for the Sixers team, as we already seen in game one.
Yeah, I think it's Embiid, but I think the Sixers, as long as they rely on Embiid to take them the whole way, I think that'll be the downfall of the Sixers, because I feel like time and time again, Embiid has shown to be a great regular season player.
Right.
During the regular season, you could say he's a top 10, maybe even top 5 big man all time, just in terms of like talent and ability. But for some reason, he's a different man in the playoffs. He's mentally, physically, he's not the Joel Embiid that we've been seeing for the past few months when April hits, when May hits. So if he's even around long enough to see May, so I feel like as long as the Sixers are relying on Embiid to get them over the hump, I feel like you need to expect the Sixers to always fall short. As long as they trust Embiid instead of trusting Maxey as that go-to option, I think that'll be the downfall. And really, honestly, if you ask me, I've been saying this for almost a year.
What?
I think it's time for the Sixers to move on from Embiid.
You're right.
I think it's time
You're
because
right.
there's as long as because Embiid has shown that this is the furthest he can go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like trading him sooner rather than later is the best option because soon he's gonna be getting injured so much to where other teams will lose interest. I feel like the Sixers can get something out of him now while he's still at least at the top of his game, MVP candidate when healthy. So I feel like trading him now while he's actually worth something, getting something in return, whether it's picks or a couple more pieces to the squad. I think that's what the Sixers should do.
You're right. I like with like Joel Embiid. Granted, he's an amazing center, but I say this all the time. There's levels to it, and he is a tier 1 player, but he's not a tier 1A. Like he's not the guy that's gonna he's not the guy to be like, take me to the promised land. He needs a Kobe to guide him because he deals with injury and what he's dealing with his body. And I think the problem with Philly, you don't have that other piece. Like Maxey's a good player, but he's not the guy like so imagine let's for instance, right? In a perfect world, if he could get traded to the Timberwolves and keep, Anthony Edwards, that would be somebody that could let's see if we can go there.
I disagree with part of what you said.
Okay.
I don't agree that Embiid isn't a tier 1 player. He's definitely a tier 1 player, but
he's not an A.
But just because he's not someone who can win you a championship doesn't mean he's not a tier 1. Because KD is a tier 1 player,
right.
and he's shown he's not a guy that can win a team a championship by himself unless he has Stephen Curry on the squad.
Okay.
So I don't think that he's not tier 1. I just think that, like you said, he's not someone that can get you a championship unless he has. Yeah.
He needs another guy. He needs that Kobe.
Is he willing to admit that though? Like you're asking an MVP winner and a back-to-back MVP candidate take a back seat. You're not the guy anymore.
I think he's willing. I think he's in the part of his career right now. He's understanding. Maybe I'm not the guy to be trying to take over the team. Maybe I need to be the second option. I think he realizes it now because he didn't get it done with Harden. Well, number one, he didn't get it done with Butler. He didn't get it done with Tobias Harris. He didn't get it done with, Maxey.
Ben Simmons.
So Ben Simmons, that was an explosion.
Yeah.
So I think he's realizing he's in his part of his career, maybe I need to go somewhere else and figure something out.
So if you're the Sixers, where do you go? Because, you have Maxey, who I think is a young and upcoming guard in this league.
Right.
You look at what he had, 33 last night against the Knicks. But again, he's playing 44 minutes. You cannot play. I don't care how you 20, 25, 30, 44 minutes in a playoff series. Every game he's going to burn out. He's going to have a couple games where he can't score 33. You cannot put all the pressure on Maxey. So what does this Sixers team need to do to win? Whether it's let Embiid go, keep Embiid. What direction do they go in? Can they rely solely on Maxey?
My question is though, you talk about relying on Maxey and getting rid of Embiid. That is an automatic. You're rebuilding at that point.
Now.
Once you get rid of your superstar, you go into a rebuild mode.
Right.
So the question is the Sixers organization willing to give up their superstar and be, okay, we're going to scratch everything that we've built up for the past 8 to 10 years, trusting the process and doing all this. We're going to scratch it because we just cannot get it right. Are they willing to do that?
I don't think that it would be a total rebuilding stage, though, because we're not talking about getting rid of Maxey. We're just talking about getting rid of Embiid.
When you get rid of Embiid, it's over.
I don't think it is.
It's over, though, right?
It's not over because I think what we get in return for Embiid is going to be the jolt that we need to sort of jolt us up.
Who would you
Embiid is a valuable trade.
He is.
Very,
But
very
that's
valuable.
what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. We need to trade him now.
You're getting 2 decent players and a pick.
How?
I think that's enough. Especially if we're looking at the playoffs this year, this, I feel like this would be the year because even without Embiid, I feel like the Sixers are still a deep enough team to be able to make a run. It's just that they lack leadership.
Are you satisfied with
that's the main issue?
Are you satisfied with round 3? If you get rid of Embiid,
but that's what I'm saying.
Third round without Embiid is impressive.
It is.
That's what
is that what you want?
I feel like getting rid of Embiid is going to be our closest step to making it past the round 3.
Now
and that's what I'm saying because if you look at the issue with the Sixers, they lack leadership. I feel like they lack heart at certain instances. And the main reason that they lost last night is because, they were out-rebounded by the Knicks by 20.
Right.
The Knicks had more offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds.
Well,
So I think it comes down to leadership at the end of the day too. Embiid I don't think he's the leader that the Sixers need as well.
I think it's leadership, and it's also, looking at, this Phillies management and coaching. What are they doing to keep Embiid healthy? What is Embiid doing to keep himself healthy? You look at he had basically 30 points last night. That's pretty good for a playoff game from your superstar. That's what you expect, 30 points. Mm-hmm. I think the issue is he burning out during the season? Is he putting too much on his body during the season? Why can't this Philly staff and ownership get it right with Embiid to know, when we look at the Lakers, how they handle LeBron, how they handle AD, look at how healthy they've been this year and what it's done for that team.
AD played 76 out of 82 games this year.
But I don't think that's the staff's fault.
Because
though. Embiid has been injury prone since we drafted him. He came out of Kansas hurt. He didn't play for the first few seasons when we got him. So he came, he came in as an injury risk guy. So we've kind of been, and he's butted into obviously the superstar that he is, but he came into the league as an injury prone guy.
So you're just getting what you signed up for.
I feel like what we see is what we're gonna get. Y'all heard the saying, once someone shows you who they are, believe them. Yeah. I feel like Embiid has shown us who he is in terms of not being someone who can go the distance.
You better preach.
And if you look at the if you look at
you got the sit on.
I got the double
Where's the offensive bucket?
Look, y'all know how I get about my Sixers.
We know.
I pay close attention to them, but I feel like they have, aside from their main guy, I feel like they have everything they need to win a championship in addition to what they would get in return for Embiid. Because we have a coach now. Nick Nurse is a great coach. He eliminated us in 2019 with Kawhi. This is a guy that knows how to win. He knows how to build a team. So I feel like if we can just get what we can get for Embiid, get what he's worth, I think the Sixers will be in a much better position than they are now.
Don't turn the channel just yet. We have more WNBA discussion when we come back. Iowa's Caitlin Clark is already a heavy favorite for the Rookie of the Year award. Chris, what other frontrunner could challenge her for that honor?
Appreciate that question, Lauren. And I think there's a very clear answer, and that's Rakia Jackson, the forward/wing for Tennessee. This girl can do it all. She's 6'2". She can handle the rock like a guard. She can bully bigger guards like a forward. There's not very much she can't do. She's one of 5 SEC players to average 20 points and 5 rebounds in multiple seasons in the past 25 years. She's a tough shot maker. She has finesse in the post game. When you look at some of her highlights, she can hit the post fadeaway. She has great footwork. And I think, behind Caitlin Clark, she is the best scorer out of this draft class.
I'm not mad at that. I'm going to go with Camila Cardoso from South Carolina. She's on the Chicago Sky with Angel Reese now. She's 6'7", 215. I think her size is going to really, she's going to be able to dominate in the WNBA. I think people not sleeping on her, but they don't expect her to come out like guns blazing. But I definitely think she'll, use her size, her experience. She shows up in big moments. When she played in the Final Four, she had 17 rebounds in the last game. That's incredible. I think that, she averages a double-double. She's going to be able to be a force in the paint, and I think that's going to go to her advantage when she's playing against the smaller centers.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm starting to think Chris is looking at my notes, though, because we've agreed, I think, twice now.
I think great minds are thinking I think that's okay, Shane.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. No accusations. I'm just, no accusations. I'm going with Rakia. I'm going with Rakia, too. I agree with you in terms of her being one of the best scorers along with Caitlin, but I also think she's just, aside from Caitlin, the most skilled in this draft class. She's a 3-level scorer, true 3-level scorer. She can knock down the 3, averaging over 20 points per game this year, averaging over 8 rebounds. She's someone who can play defense too, so she's not just a scorer, but she can also be a two-way player. But I think she's perfect for what I think her game will really be able to shine, in her role on the Sparks team, because they have Cameron Brink. They have someone who can play defense. They got a rim protector. She was averaging over 3 blocks this year. And she's 6'4", but really with her wingspan, she's basically a 7-footer. She's going to be basically a 7-footer in the WNBA. Right. So I feel like that'll open it up for Rakia to do even more offensively. Being able to free her up and do more more things instead of, having less of a defensive pressure.
Being able to go beyond our offense.
Right. But she's shown to be someone who's capable of doing both.
Right.
She was hanging with Angel this year, in terms of in the paint. She was hanging with Cardozo this year in the paint. So I feel like Rakia, the sky's the limit for her.
I mean, and the resumes there just point out to your point of, that competition in the SEC. She had 22 points and 29 points against their 2 games against South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at this Sparks team that struggled last year, they were 9th in the West, 17-23. They were a guard-heavy team. They had Lexi Brown. They had Zaya Cook from South Carolina, who's really good.
Yep.
And now you kind of look at what they've been able to add with Cam Brink and now Rakia Jackson, kind of that size, that presence. But I think Rakia brings that nice middle ground of being able to be a guard, but also play as kind of that stretch 4 in that 3 role that can really do it all. I mean, very efficient. In her last game, she had 33 points and was 60% from the field. I mean, she does it at an efficient level, and I think that's a big thing when you talk about the transition from college to the pro. How efficient can you be? You don't need to be taking 40 shots to score 20 points. And I think she's shown that she can be consistently efficient and get it done at all levels, like you said. So I think she's going to be really good, and I think she's going to give Caitlin Clark a run from her money just because of when you look at this Sparks team, they need somebody that can take over that role of being that bona fide superstar, and I think that's what Rakia is going to do.
Right.
We just talked about 3 amazing females in the game of basketball. It's going to be interesting to see how they compete with Caitlin Clark, because I know Caitlin Clark is going to be a force to be having within the WNBA. She's coming out with guns blazing. With the picks though, with the WNBA Rookie of the Year, I think it's going to come down number 1, who starts early, who gets the nervousness out the way early, who can bring immediate impact, and who can make a run in the playoffs possibly.
We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the show. We now go to reporter Kennedy Scales from the field.
I'm outside with Hampton University's track and field throwers. Can you hold a ball this heavy? Well, I know somebody that can.
Track and field season is here, and the team is full of talent. But one athlete in particular has been on a rise to success as a thrower this track season.
I love the track and field team. It's a good environment. I've been here 3 years, and I haven't had a problem with it, so it's good.
Tomi found her love for the sport in high school after being introduced to it by a friend.
It was actually my friend. She threw javelin in high school, and she kind of convinced me to start throwing. She convinced me to throw jab, but I was like, it's not really my strong suit. So I was like, okay, I'll go for something else. So I went for discus and shot put, and I guess it kind of stuck with me.
Being a student athlete is tough, but she's had support right by her side.
There's been instances when I called my mom, crying, bawling my eyes out, because it's just tiring, both physically and mentally. But my mom, she just kind of tells me push through it. There'll be times that'll be down, there'll be times that'll be up. So you just gotta fight and push through it.
And by pushing through it, she was able to break the school record in the hammer throw.
Honestly, I can't do anything but thank God for it, because I know at the time I was struggling a lot with my track and field career, but I just had to put it to God and put my trust in Him, and now that's how I felt. I was just very grateful.
I'm Kennedy Scales from Saber Sports.
Thanks, Kennedy. That's all we have for today's show. Make sure to tune back in with us next week on Saber Sports for your favorite sports.